Oh, hey out there. You are listening to Tiny Little Victories, the podcast that talks to humans who are changing our world. Welcome back. I'm your host, Jennifer Kite-Powell, and on today's show, we're going to be talking about one of my very favorite topics, bees. And our guest is so interesting because he grew up as the son of one of Israel's largest beekeepers. So this kid got stung a lot. He grew up working in the bee yard. Can I call it a bee yard? It's not a bee yard, it's an apiary with his father. And he was set to take over the family business. And then his dad was like, son, you need to go out into the world, get a degree, find your way, see what other things interest you, even though I'd love you here. What a smart dad. Anyway, our guest goes out into the world and does just that and ends up meeting the people that he ended up forming this next company with. I know I'm being a little cryptic here, but first, I just want to talk a little bit about what they've created. Now, we all know that beekeepers, commercial beekeepers, are struggling. They actually need a lot of help to keep these bees pollinating, and bees need a lot of help to keep these bees pollinating. So, how about we use data to be able to look at the temperature, the humidity, and even the queen's nervousness level, which can indicate like if there's a disease inside the hive? What if you're able to take all that data and send that to a beekeeper? They have so much more knowledge. So, this next guest actually created a company called Bee Hero, which uses sensor technology to monitor the hives. And they're focusing on growers right now. They have grown so fast. They're from beekeepers, from 20,000 hives to 30,000 hives. To over, I think, 2,000 acres they're covering right now. And so they have got a lot of good funding, people believing in supporting ag tech companies to help grow our food. Because, folks, if we don't have food, we're not living anymore. So please sit back and listen to this next guest, Itai Kanot, Chief Growth Officer and co-founder of Bee Hero.
So, Itai, I'm so happy that you're here with us today on Tiny Little Victories. How are you today?
I am very good.
Good.
Thank you very much for asking. And thank you for having me here.
Oh my God. Can I just say, I have been wanting to talk to you for quite a long time, almost 2 years. And it's been a while because this podcast has just been going, but I was like, I've got to get one of these guys on the podcast because I absolutely love what you're doing. And I know that I have talked about you before we started the show, but I want to talk about how you transformed your work with bees into a company because I think you worked with your father for many years. He's like the largest beekeeper in Israel. Is that right?
That's
It's
correct.
so cool.
Thank you. My dad's been the largest beekeeper in Israel for quite a while now.
So cool.
I was actually born into beekeeping, and I've
Yeah.
been yeah. Um, People sometimes ask me if my mother is a bee. So
Oh my God, I love that. I love that. It's so mythical, right? It's very like, Greek gods. Was your mother a bee? It's funny. I was going to ask you, what was like young boy Itai like with the bees? What was the first memory that you had of going out and working with your dad?
So I guess the first memory I have from bees, I think I have this memory because we have it on like an old family
Ah, yeah.
VHS.
Yeah.
So I'm very young, and we used to have these kind of foam built small nooks really
Oh,
close to the house, and they were in many different colors,
yeah.
green, red, blue, and so on. And they were right next to the house, and I walked around with my dad there.
And
So this is
someone
the memory that I have.
That's
Um,
that's one of your first memories of seeing those colored nukes in the back. Were you aware of what was in there? I mean, you must have known.
yeah, I was aware. I mean, I got stung a lot as a kid. just walking, just walking around
Yeah.
barefoot in our backyard. I would step on bees every now and again, and
Yeah.
so I was definitely fully aware of what's going on there. And then I guess sometime when I was in elementary school, um, over the summer vacation,
Yeah.
I, I started working with my dad, and
Oh, okay. Elementary school. That's so interesting.
yeah, so the first year. I worked with my dad. I was building frames
Yeah,
for the hives.
yeah,
And in Israel, most people still use the wax foundation
yeah,
uh, and not the plastic one. So you have those wires going through. So I
yeah.
had to
Okay.
kind of stretch the wires and then put them against this electrical thing that warms the wires up so we can put
Put the
the foundation in. So
yeah.
I would do that. And actually, a good friend of mine came to do the work with me as well. And
Gosh,
like our salary at the end of it
was
was
honey.
no, it was binoculars. But
Binoculars.
I I was so into like hiking at the
Oh
time.
yeah.
I'm
Hmm.
still am, by the way. And I really wanted binoculars. And my dad said, "Okay, you
I'll
come work for
pay.
me."
I'll pay you in binoculars.
And so yeah,
I like your
that was
negotiating power there. It's like, you know what? You're like, that's such a great way to be in life. Like it's not always about money, right? Well, it is, but it's not. Like what is something that motivates you as a child? And then you're
definitely
like, well, I like hiking and this can help me. I'm fascinated by what you said about the wires stretching across the frames because I have hives, two hives in my backyard. And of course, I have the plastic like you said, and I buy
yeah.
my frames. So
Sure.
I'm wondering for you, like as a child, when you were making these, are you still most of your hives still using the wires? Are you still using the wires and
Yeah.
then? Oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's
Yeah.
really interesting. Is
Yeah.
that is that is that a country specific thing, or is that just like the how you guys beekeep?
You know, it is the most common way of beekeeping in Israel. I would say. I don't know a lot of beekeepers that
Yeah,
use the plastic foundation.
yeah.
I don't really know why, to be
Seems
honest.
lazy, right? Just use plastic foundation. I mean, I use it because I can't put two nails in to make a square for my frame. So
Right. I think that beekeepers in Israel believe that it's better for the bees,
yeah.
and that is the reason why people still use it. And also, in terms of your infrastructure, um, you have different machinery, or it's really the RPMs that they are able when you pull out the honey from the frames, you put the frames in this
The
centrifuge
centrifugal, yeah.
machine, yeah, that spins it and the honey comes out. And so with the plastic foundation, you can spin it a lot faster
Mm,
than with the um, wax foundation because the wax will just tear apart if you spin it
yeah.
too. So the infrastructure that we have is meant to be used with the normal foundation with the wax foundation and
Okay.
not so. I don't know if people think, well, if I move to this, I need to
Yeah.
also change a lot of my infrastructure. I don't know.
Yeah.
Everything else is the same. It's just the foundation that we use is a
I
little
think
bit
that's really interesting because I think foundation is everything in everything we do anyway. So starting with a foundation that is different, I think maybe does it change? I wonder, and you must know this, does it change the way the like the hive is built or the way they build the comb? I wonder. I don't think it matters, right? It's just a structure for them.
Uh, yeah, I mean the structure is the same, right?
Hmm.
We're using the hexagons.
Yeah,
Everything is very similar. It's just the material that
just the
the
material.
foundation is made of.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never tested whether the bees prefer this or that. So
I mean, they got bigger problems, right? Like to worry about the frames. What what was your like moment in time where you had this aha moment where you're like, we have to figure out a way to use technology to help understand what's going on inside of these hives? Because I'm fascinated by what this sensor can do. And so I want to talk a little bit about the sensor and then how it tests the queen's nervousness because I have had very nervous queens. I got to tell you, I'm not a commercial beekeeper, but my queen has flown the coop 3 times. I've gotten her back all 3 times. I'm thinking I know, right? It's sort of like, what is wrong with that lady? But I'm very proud of myself for catching the swarm 3 times.
yeah,
So I want to talk about this technology because I think it's fascinating and you could probably talk more about this, but I think beekeepers are desperate for the least digital group of, agriculture people out there and they need all the help they can get to help grow our food. So how
right.
does the sensor work?
So maybe I'll go back to you asked when was the aha
Yeah,
moment.
yeah, I do that. Everyone listening will tell you. I ask a lot of questions, and this is a no-no. So, aha moment.
Yeah. So the aha moment, there really wasn't a aha moment. Uh,
I love
it
that.
it it was a process, right?
Yeah.
It's not like one day I wake up in the morning and I'm like, oh, I know what we're gonna do.
Ta-da! Yeah.
And I think very rarely startup companies actually start with a just aha moments. It's
Yeah.
just a bunch of smaller ahas along the way that kind
Tiny
of
little
brings
victories then along the way. Yes.
exactly. So I guess if we're talking about the Be Hero origin story,
Yeah, let's
uh,
do that.
then I've been in beekeeping my entire life, like I said before, and I was going into a trajectory of eventually taking over the family business
Mhm.
of beekeeping. And my dad, who I think is a very progressive thinking person,
Aw.
said that he would love to have me, but he's got conditions, right? Like when you go to work at a company, you need to have a degree, for example.
Yeah.
So he said, if you want to work here, you have to go to university.
I love your
Right?
dad. That sounds
Yeah,
amazing.
I do too. What a
Yeah. Smart.
coincidence.
Yeah.
So he wanted me to explore directions, to learn things that will be helpful for me in my life, and so on and so forth. And so I did. I went to school and got my bachelor's degree. And then during that time, I also went to this entrepreneurship program that was
Oh.
running in my university. And in that program, I actually met my co-founders, and it was pretty interesting for them to be talking to an actual commercial beekeeper their age,
Yeah,
right?
right? That's so true. Like all the beekeepers, the commercial beekeepers I know are sorry, very mature beyond their years, I shall say, right?
Yeah.
And it's remarkable because you learn so much from them, but like you're probably the youngest like bud in the room, right? When it comes to these commercial beekeepers. So yeah, I can imagine that it would be shocking like for them to be so fascinated by you.
Right. So, I mean, I've seen it all the course of my life when I get to talk to people and they're like, "Oh my God, you're a beekeeper," and then we start asking all these questions and they never stop. And like people are, "Oh my God, I didn't realize how interesting bees are." And
Yes. Yes.
yeah, and so this was the case there, but we were in a specific situation where we're encouraged to think about like how can we use our personal expertise to improve the world, right, under
Mhm.
the umbrella of this entrepreneurship program. And so we started talking about bees, and my co-founders came from a more technological background. I also at the time was trying a few different technologies that were available to beekeepers, and I
Okay.
was not happy with any of them because they were, first of all, they were meant mainly for backyard beekeepers and not commercial beekeepers,
Yeah.
which is okay. It
Yeah.
was just not good for our purposes.
Totally. Like that's the thing. Like the poor backyard beavers are just like they're such babies, right? They're such novices. They have like too much passion, but do we really need all that? No, we don't. Like the bigger picture is like you said, how do we improve the earth? How do we change the productivity of pollinators so that we can keep growing our food? And sure, I got a backyard full of vegetables, but
And, yeah, but look, with many backyard beekeepers, it's a hobby, right?
yeah,
You don't need it, but you want
exactly.
it.
Yeah.
So it's like a friend of mine is doing downhill with bikes, right?
Yeah.
So he just upgraded his bike. Did he need to do that? No, but he wanted to. So it's kind of the same. And
Yeah.
they made a few companies made some systems for backyard beekeepers. It was very expensive. It was
Yeah.
very bulky. It wasn't meant to be moving around.
Mm,
It was
mm.
relying on your home Wi-Fi and things like that that didn't really make sense. And also, when I did install them in the hives that we had close to home, it didn't really give me anything
Mm,
of substance that
yeah,
I can really
yeah.
use to
I like
improve
how
our
you
bees.
experimented though. I think that's really smart. Like you grew up on bees and beekeeping, so I love that you had that knowledge of thinking like, well, you just test a few things to see how it works. You know, because you can't go to bee school. There's no beekeeping school really.
Right. I mean, yeah, the beekeeping schools usually talk mostly about the biology of bees
Yeah,
and so on. But anyways, yeah, I look. I grew up in a very agricultural area,
yeah.
right? My town is all about agriculture, and I saw how all my neighbors are using technology to improve their agriculture capabilities, and we're the only ones that stuck 100 years ago, still using smoker in a high school.
Yes, yes.
And really, when you look into this, the last disruptive technology to enter the beekeeping industry was the invention of motorized vehicle, right?
Well, for
So
moving the hives,
yeah,
basically. Yeah,
instead of using a donkey
yeah,
and a little cart,
yeah.
you now have trucks and forklifts, and you can move hundreds of miles. And yeah,
This is fascinating because we're going to come back to the story with your founder sitting there being amazed by you, but like you're right, that's the last technological discovery. I was amazed at how I went out and like followed a commercial beekeeper around, was fascinated by how much work it is to load all of those hives onto these 18 wheelers and then drive them to California and then set them up again, then drive them somewhere else. Like the physicalness, manual labor involved in moving these heavy, heavy hives. People don't understand. People do not understand. I have such an appreciation for honey in the store. It's like, dude, don't waste it. Don't waste it.
yeah, beekeeping is a very tough,
Whew.
physical, mental, very demanding job. You have to really love bees
Yeah.
to be in this business, because it's just so difficult, and also you're alone a lot.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, Itai, that's so true. It is. Yeah, I always enjoyed it when people came over to help me in my hives, and then sometimes I love my girls, but yeah, you're alone more than I actually thought you would actually be out there. You know.
And think about those commercial beekeepers. They go out to move
Oh,
bees at night. They're
yeah,
all
yes.
in their truck, maybe with like one employee, drive for hours on end, and pick up hives, get stung, and while
Oh,
you're doing,
yeah,
it's a difficult work, and you have to do it when it's cold, and you have to do it when it's hot, and when
yeah.
it's raining, and it's just that's the way it is. So
It's
you
true,
have
and that bee suit is like doesn't enough when it's cold, and then you're too freaking hot when it's hot. Like it's like there's no perfect medium. So as you were testing all of these little contraptions with your more technologically focused co-founders, those that moment of you guys probably putting your heads together and thinking, okay, what would work? What doesn't need to rely on a lot of Wi-Fi or electrical connections? Like that was that the direction you were going?
So we first wanted to understand if we can look at digital data coming from the hives and
Okay,
correlate it with what we physically see, right?
yeah.
So that was the first step, and we installed some sensors in like 10 hives in my backyard, and we just started playing around with it. This was like a proof of concept,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And we found out that we are able to correlate some of the information that we're collecting digitally to what I'm seeing physically when I open the hives.
That is so cool. So what are some of the digital little pieces of information that you were getting back that when you opened the hive, you were like, oh, we got it?
Yeah, so the early days it was basically just temperature, humidity, and the weight of the hive. That was
Okay.
the very very early setup.
I think the
Then
weight's
later,
really important because I'm like, oh my God, this thing is so heavy.
yeah, uh, later on we added a lot of other sensors, and we can dive deeper into what we have right now in our
Hmm.
with our. Um, but yeah, we basically just wanted to understand if we're wasting our time here and there's really not a lot we can do,
Yeah.
or or actually we can find good correlation that tells us that with certain amount of confidence
Yeah.
that we can develop something here to understand more about bees, about the hive, without actually physically being there, right? That
Yeah.
was the original intention of the very early days. And then once we got the confidence we needed, we raised some money. We went and developed a, a more advanced sensing ability.
Mhm.
At that point, it was still relatively dumb. It
Yeah.
wasn't connected to
Yeah.
any network. We had little SD cards, memory
What?
cards, and yeah,
Little
and I had to
tiny.
go once a week to replace those cards because they would get full.
Of course.
And we installed those in about 1,000 hives in my dad's operation, and then
Okay.
later 4,000 hives between my dad and some other beekeepers that I knew.
Wait, you were
And
installing teeny tiny little SD cards in thousands of hives?
so every
That's
setup was for 4 hives, right? We had like
okay.
this master brain, and then wires coming out of it,
Okay.
things going into the hives, and then a little SD card. And yeah, we've done thousands of these.
Yeah.
Um, you have four hives on pallets,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
um, we've done about 4,000 hives or so. So
Okay.
1,000 of those pallet units.
Yeah.
Um, and then at some point, we got to a position where we felt like we have a good enough value that we can
Mhm.
provide to beekeepers.
Yeah.
And that was when we started traveling to the U.S., meeting with some people here, and eventually we closed our first commercial agreement. And at the same time, we moved from Israel to
To
the
San Francisco,
U.S.
to the US. What I have to know, I'm going to ask you this. What were some of the investors' looks on their faces when you're like, "Hey, we got these little sensors we're going to put in hives for bees." Were they like, "What?" Or did they see the oh, they were like, "What?" Okay.
So at the time when we started, which was we started in 2017, and um, I mean, smart farming and the ag tech
Yeah.
space was already in existence,
Yeah.
but it wasn't vast.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
so true. It's so true. And remember, 60, the average age of a farmer or a grower around the world is 60.
right. So with investors, a lot of them were like, "Yeah,
Ugh.
we don't really understand agriculture. This is not really our space." And then even if you meet with investors that like the agricultural space, they didn't
Mhm.
understand bees. You know,
It's kind
um,
of amazing to me that nobody understands bees. Like, it's kind of amazing that we go through life stumbling around and you talk to somebody and you start telling them about bees, and like you said, they just do not stop asking you questions. And you're like, "What? Did you go to school or anything? Like, what? How do you not understand a bee?" Like, this is so
right.
crazy. And I think
I
your
know.
investors also are, I just think investors are short-sighted. I'm going to say it. You don't have to say it because, yeah, I agree with you. 2017, the sensors were coming, agriculture. It's almost like it was like a dirty little word, agriculture, but it's foundational. Like, if we don't have food, none of that's the one thing we all have in common. We eat. And I think it's the craziest thing that they don't see is this is the most lucrative market to put dollars into because we're running out of arable soil. Climate change is affecting everything, like water, hello, problems. And the fact that you wouldn't see this beautiful opportunity of pollinators helping pollinators stay healthy, which means we have food, is a huge disconnect. Like, I think bees are sexy also, but like food is sexy.
Yeah. No, I think to be fair, a lot, most or maybe all of the investors that we've ever spoken to, they knew about the issues, right?
Okay.
Everybody knows about CCD. Everybody knows about the disappearance of the bees.
Yeah.
Um, um, but people weren't confident enough to be able to run good due diligence on the
Yeah. Okay.
company,
That's fair. That's fair.
right? But as it turns out, we were able to find the right partners, and the right investors,
So great.
and yeah, and over time, going back to the many ahas along the way,
Yes, yeah.
over time, we kind of changed and pivoted the direction of the company. We started more by thinking, okay, we're going to develop smart beekeeping, right?
Hmm.
Um, and this is our market. We're going to sell to beekeepers. Commercial beekeepers are going to buy our product. But then over time, we felt like there's more value in us really pointing our services to the pollination uh,
Interesting.
sector or space,
Yeah.
and we pivoted, and now
It's
our
smart.
client is really the growers
Yeah,
growing.
that's so smart.
Thank you.
I mean,
And,
literally the growers. That's just, I did see that in your mission statement that you're like, although you're saying it much clearer because, mission statements, sometimes you're like, wait, what? But the
a lot of
grower.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think that's so beautiful because these guys are the ones that are struggling. They're the ones growing our food. And without them, again, I'm repeating myself, we have no food.
No, absolutely. And even though, I mean, look, we love what we do in terms of the good that it brings to the world.
Yeah,
But in order for us to be able to keep running it,
yeah,
it needs to be financially viable,
of
right?
course.
And so, with moving from the beekeepers to pollination and
Yeah.
really dealing with the growers as clients, you're going one step closer to the end consumer, right? So
Yeah.
so that was part of why we do it. I mean, you know, there's a lot of impact to what we do
Hmm.
globally, but at the end of the day, it also needs to be lucrative enough for it to keep running.
Of course. Of
Can't
course.
just run in love.
Yeah. And wouldn't it be great if we could do that?
Would,
I would
would
be
be
like
great.
so happy as a human. Um, you're spreading love for sure with this. So, what has been the reaction from a grower when you come to them with this, with your technology and with the company's proposition?
So it's always a mixed bag. Not everybody wants what you're selling. It's just
Yeah,
the reality.
yeah,
And really, there's no there. I don't know of any product uh, in the world that really everybody needs, except for maybe air and water, right?
food.
Um, yeah, but like a very specific.
Yeah,
If you don't want that, you can eat
yeah,
this.
that's so true. That's so true. Yeah,
So
true.
everybody needs pollination, but they don't know if they don't necessarily want the pollination service that we provide.
Uh huh.
But I will say that we've had a lot of success, right? And so we've grown quite significantly. Like in 2020, we pollinated 2,500 acres, and then in 2021, we pollinated 21,000 acres.
Yeah, I saw some numbers there, and they were massive. It back to like number of hive boxes, 40,000 to like over 100,000, and then just the growth
Yeah.
just took off from there.
So today we have we're servicing over 200,000 acres, and we're
Wow.
working with over 300,000 hives. Um, so these are big numbers, and I think the best metric, or the one that I'm very very proud of, is not just where we're at. It's the fact that we barely have any churn. Our churn levels are very 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 low, and almost
That's a
all of our
good.
clients, yeah, almost all of our clients, once they started working with us, they stay. And that is something that I'm very, very happy about.
I love that you recognize that that is a happy thing because that is to me the true hallmark of, first of all, quality, a company that gets its customers, and also a value that you're literally bringing to the market. And I think you said this earlier, like who are the entrepreneurs or who are the investors that are going to see this connection? And once people start, I hope that most people it'll begin to grow based on that low churn success. And I really like the way
It's already
more
growing.
people are. What?
It's already growing.
It's on its trajectory then. I,
That's it. No,
I
we're very happy with our growth metrics.
yeah.
Within 2 or 3 years, 3 years, I think we became the largest pollination provider in the world.
Whoa, that's great. Congratulations. And
Thank you.
pollination provider. That is a topic, a word, a phrase that I think needs to get out there more. Like that a way of thinking. And you, to me, Bee Hero is sort of changing the thought process around pollination, which I think is really important. I don't think people, the consumers, don't connect so much. You hear it, but are they connecting it, right?
Yeah,
Versus,
I'm sure a lot of people think that cucumber grow on the supermarket shelf.
I I'm pretty sure I've talked to some people in my neighborhood that are surprised that things are pollinated and
Right.
trees, put out are, great pollinators. And it does shock me a lot, Itai, like how little people know about nature in a way. And
And I think it. You know, if you talk to let's say a plumber, right?
yeah,
You will very quickly into the conversation. You will understand how much you don't understand, and how much, and there are so many intricate things in this space that you don't
yes,
realize as somebody that uses the bathroom every day. You know,
yeah, it's so
and
true. It's a good analogy.
so with any space, we don't actually have the full understanding of what's going on there.
Yeah,
And you know, when you think about rocket science, you say, okay, this is rocket science. Obviously, it's so deep, and we don't know anything about it.
yeah,
But but I really think it's like that with almost anything. And it's interesting, if you read some information about the history of humanity, right? When you go 2-3 thousand years ago, or even more than that, ten
yeah,
thousand years ago, every person needed to have knowledge that is very very wide. And I think it was somebody compared it to like having 3 PhDs, really,
yeah. It's a
because
good analysis.
you needed to be a botanist,
Yes.
you needed to
Yep.
be a doctor, you needed to be you know, so many things in order to survive.
Yeah.
Now with modern day society, everybody's just so focused on the one thing that they do well, and you don't have a lot of knowledge in other spaces.
Yeah.
And
This is so true. This is so well said. I think there was an article about 7 years ago that came out in Esquire magazine about this, about
Mhm.
how people in general, we don't know how to do anything anymore.
Yeah,
We don't know how to do things to survive. Like you said, you had to be a doctor. You had to go out and kill and get your own food, and you had to be a farmer, and otherwise, you really wouldn't survive. And those are, like, I think beekeeping is one of those, like, very ancient, like, very it's been around a long time, and people have been keeping bees just for a millennia, basically. And honey doesn't go bad. Did
yeah.
you read that
Honey never
article
goes
where they found
bad.
that honey?
Yeah, they found honey from King David's
Yes,
era,
yes.
3,000 years old, in Jerusalem.
So
So
incredible.
yeah, that's pretty awesome. Honey is just the concentration level of sugar just doesn't allow any bacteria or anything
It's
like that.
just remarkable, just remarkable. When you were young Itai, and then you were college Itai, and then you went to your entrepreneurial school. By the way, we need to thank your dad because, I love that he thought you need to go expand your brain a little, right? Because if you
Well,
didn't do that, maybe you wouldn't have what?
yeah, my dad was super supportive throughout the whole thing,
Love it.
even at, even with the understanding that it comes at his expense.
Oh, but
Uh,
losing you as part of the
right,
takeover. Yeah.
but for my dad, like he always told me, so my dad is not like a third generation beekeeper or anything like that. He's a first generation beekeeper.
What? I
He
love
started
that.
the company. He was 25 years old. He owned like a BMW classic motorcycle. Uh, he
I love this
sold
guy.
he sold that motorcycle and bought a very old pickup truck and 20 hives. This is how he started.
Why? Why did he do this? This is what, like 25? What were you doing at 25? You were like going off to college and going to entrepreneurial school. What
Yeah,
motivated him?
that's
Get your
funny.
dad on the show. Let's get your dad on the show.
Yeah, yeah. I'm happy to connect you. So the romantic story is that a friend of his had a few hives and also a sister that my dad liked. And so my
Oh,
dad
it
was,
always comes to a girl, doesn't it?
yeah,
Always comes down to a
my
girl.
dad was looking for excuses to come around more.
See, it's all about love, Itai. It's all about love.
Yeah, well, it's not my mother,
Oh,
so
okay. Sorry,
yeah,
mom.
yeah, no, it's fine. No, at the time, my dad wasn't married, but
Yeah.
she didn't end up being my mother, is what I'm
Okay.
saying.
Yeah.
But that's a romantic story,
It
I guess.
is.
And this is how my dad started, and over the years, he became good at it,
Yeah.
and grew his business more and more and more. But he always told me that the fact that he chose this line of work doesn't mean that I need to choose
That
this
guy
line of
is
work.
so smart. He's so wise, right? Like that's so incredibly wise because I know he probably loves working with you and you saw that path for you, but what a gift. I mean, what a gift.
Absolutely, I'm very grateful
Yeah.
for
Push you
my,
out of the hive, right?
yeah, very grateful for my parents
Yeah.
and the way they educated me and my sisters.
Yeah.
And yeah, so he would always tell me, "I'm happy that you like this business and that you want to come work here, but
Yeah.
this is not your prescribed destiny. Like you choose your destiny and you choose, what you want to do." So
Wow. He said that.
uh,
That's cool.
yeah, yeah, and actually now my youngest sister and her husband are getting more and more involved with my dad's business, and they're probably going to take over in a few years.
You know what? Sometimes one door leads to another door and brings things in the natural balance of where everything should be. Because in a way, you are continuing that legacy of his 20 hives and a pickup truck, you know,
Yeah.
and growing that to bring you where you are. Is there anything you want to leave us with in terms of your love for bees, what Bee Hero is going to be doing next, what anyone can do for Bee Hero, or you got any sage words channeling through your father, maybe? I don't know.
But I think that we all as a society have to understand the contribution of bees to our well-being,
Mhm.
right? Honey is really nice, but it's not the main thing. We can live without honey. The reason why we care about bees is pollination, because bees are
Yeah.
responsible for 1/3 of everything that we eat, and that's very, very important. And without them, we're not going to have enough to eat. So I think that's really important. Buy local honey to support your local beekeepers.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and Bee Hero is always hiring. Yeah, great.
That's my
Uh,
honey.
Bee Hero is always hiring, and
Okay.
if you know someone, or you're that someone that can join us and contribute, then we'll be happy to hear from you.
I love that. I did see on LinkedIn that you guys are hiring. You're looking for a field operation specialist, I think.
Yeah,
And
California. Yeah.
yeah, in California. And so, yeah, so we're going to do a shout out. Everybody, listen, if you have this passion, like I'm going to put the links in the notes. You can go to the end of the show notes and you can go to Be Hero. You can see the jobs that are open. You can see the work that they've been doing. You can see Itai and his founders. And you can help by spreading the word. I think that's the thing is spread the word.
You've been listening to Itai Kanot, Chief Growth Officer and co-founder of Bee Hero.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, and I hope this was interesting.